Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to TED Talks Ball. We've got the weekly show here with Pedro, Pete Burge of NinersDNA. Pete, thanks for joining me again. We usually do our shows at 2:45 Pacific on Thursdays, but we bumped it back to 5 p.m. It's a little more of an evening show, cocktail hour, if you will. Pedro, how you been? Anything I may have missed? Anything you want to tell folks? Let's have anything you want to promote. Let us know.
I guess the first thing, guys, obviously, a very good morning. Sorry, we're in different time zones, mate. It's 10 o'clock on Friday morning here. And so, as you say, it's cocktail hour over there. What's your favorite cocktail, mate?
Used to be, I used to drink a lot of bourbon back in the day and vodka sodas eventually. And then actually I really don't drink much anymore, but, I liked pretty much everything. There wasn't much I didn't like when it came to alcohol or, sometimes other things too. So.
Yeah. Well, look, I'm streaming this to my channel, guys. So the Australian viewers, please head over to NinersDNA on YouTube. But the other thing I wanted to promote is the guys that are doing a really good job down here is the Outback quarterback, obviously playing on the bush, what we call the bush down here in Australia. They've got a podcast, they've got an Instagram page at the Outback quarterback. So give them a look, give them a like, give them a listen. They've got some pretty good ideas and some pretty good insights and a pretty good handle on stuff in regard to the NFL. They just put out a little video the other day about trading. Doss wanted to is saying that we should trade Trey Lance. I don't think we should, but we're going to get into all that, I can imagine.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
No.
Especially for what we could get for him right now. It just makes zero sense. However, for Trey Lance, I'm starting to think it might make sense because it doesn't seem like he's ever going to get a fair opportunity to show us what he can do. We don't have to jump right in on that, but let's say hi to the audience real quick. Got Jimmy Perez in the house. Said, "What's up, Ted and Faithful? What's up, Jimmy? Thanks for joining." Got Randy Daytona saying, "Aloha, gentlemen. Aloha, Randy. Aloha, Mr. Hand, and Randy. Love it." It's from Fast Times. Melissa Rebel, also known as NJ Izzy. What's up, Ted? What's up, Melissa? Long time no see. Good to see you. Welcome. Better know that you're here. James Durnall coming to us from another accent land, United Kingdom. So opposite direction from you there in Sydney, Australia. And then Randy's saying Singapore sling is his favorite drink. That's good. It's awfully sweet, though. If you drink drinks like that with a lot of juice and sugar in them, you end up with a pretty wicked hangover the next day, was always my experience. But if you're having just one, why not? Alabama Slammer. I think that's another fairly sweet drink. But again, teach his own. Like I said, whatever gets the job done and you enjoy. Some people just don't like the taste of alcohol either, so I get that too. Melissa says, please smash that like button. Yeah, we're streaming on 2 platforms. Are we? I don't know. It doesn't seem like.
No, I took one down because I was getting some static back here, and it seemed as though it was slowing down our.
Oh shoot.
So that's fine. I'll just retweet it back to my channel. It'll be fine. I want to make sure that
I can email you the show and then you can upload it to.
Yeah, perfect.
I can download it from StreamYard and email it to you, and you can upload it to YouTube.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, so we'll get that squared away because I definitely want you to benefit, your channel to benefit from this too, for sure. James says, "Straight gentleman Jack, drink a real drink." That's definitely real, man. Drink. I was a Maker's Mark guy for a long time with the bourbon. Jack and Coke was sort of what got me started, and then moved on to Maker's, and then some better bourbons too for a while, more handcrafted stuff. What if Rams and Seahawks offer a third for Trey Lance? What would you say to that?
Well, Randy, the one thing that I think that is really detrimental to Trey at the moment is the position that he's in. I think he is not getting the treatment that I think he should be getting. Ryan Hensley had a good take in regard to what he said about he's a parent, he's a coach, and he's a young guy, Trey Lance, and maybe, and so we got to think about. So Trey Lance has received $14 million, right? So in terms of, what he is owed or what the Niners owe him, they are they've pretty much paid him what he's due, and maybe they don't owe him anything in terms of the treatment that he's getting. So I think that, but from a perspective of Trey being able to, I think the Rams would probably be good, because I like Sean McVay. Sean McVay is a guy that really, looks after his quarterbacks, supports his quarterbacks, and has a good relationship with his quarterbacks. Kyle Shanahan doesn't have, as I've said in the past, doesn't have a good EQ, and I don't think he's able to have a relationship with his quarterbacks. So, and I think Trey is the sort of guy that is looking, being the young guy that he is, he needs that sort of mentor, fatherly figure. So I would, at this stage, Ted, I would hate to lose him because of what he could be, but for the sake of Trey himself, I would, I would very much consider trading him to the Rams.
There you go. There you go. A sad days indeed in Ninerland. Yeah, I don't want to trade him, but I do want him to get a chance. And it just doesn't seem like, it seems like he's in Kyle's doghouse or worse. It seems like Kyle's sabotaging him. That's why I picked that title for the show today. I felt like it on Sunday. You don't go on a run first team and call 3 first possessions with 0 runs. Then he finally calls a couple runs on the 4th possession. Lance, and a couple gimmies for Lance. He gets into, a rhythm. And what do you know? We score a TD, drive down and score a TD on that drive. I think that very clearly illustrates the difference. I'm not saying Lance didn't miss some open receivers, but, he's coming back almost a year since he played tackle football and not much experience before that. So, it's understandable that he'd be rusty and skittish, especially after early pressures behind that Swiss cheese O-line. You got to run the ball. It keeps the defenders from pinning their ears back, and it makes run fakes actually work. You can't do run fakes without running. You don't have to run effectively. You can have runs that gain nothing. And that caused the defense to bite. But if you don't run at all, run fakes don't work. And the run fakes didn't work. Every time we called him, there was somebody in his face, including the TD. That was almost interception. That's why we kind of excuse it, some of us, because he had the guy in his face. But there were several other times where he had guys in his face when it was a play fake where, you would think they would at least honor the run, but nobody was afraid of TDP or Jordan Mason. Real quick, people are talking about the drinks. There was some. Melissa was saying, I hate to say it, but Elijah Mitchell should be the one traded. I've been saying that all off season, but I don't know what you get for a guy who's that injury prone. For go back to Randy for what the Rams, absolutely freaking not. You cannot trade Trey Lance inside the division and then have him turn out to be a great quarterback and he's like the next Russell Wilson, 17-4 against us in the next 10 years, and we gave him to him. Frick no. Plus, the way we mint comp 3rd-round picks, like a 3rd-round pick is not that valuable to us. We'd have to get, I think, at least a 1st-round pick to even consider it. And even then, I still think it would be a mistake. But, I guess we'll see what happens. I mean, I used to say there's no way we'll trade Lance, but now I'm just saying, it would just be a mistake because Kyle's made so many QB mistakes. I really can't discount the fact that he could make another one. I think he's making a mistake now by not giving Lance a chance to compete for first team. He did it last year, had Purdy at QB number 3. What if Jimmy never got injured last year? We wouldn't even know what we had.
That story.
Yeah, so we wouldn't even know what we had in Brock Purdy if Jimmy had stayed healthy or if Lance had. But I'm saying Jimmy because, I think everyone agrees that Purdy was better than Jimmy, and he's probably better than Lance, but I'm not willing to fully concede that because we never saw Lance with CMC and we barely saw him with Kittle. Mitchell got injured early. It was a monsoon. There's a bazillion reasons why that Bears game was not a good indicator of future success. So the D was terrible. Our interior offensive line was terrible. And their first ever NFL starts, like literally right guard, center, left guard, all starting for their first time in the NFL. Like, come on, what do you expect? What do you expect?
Well, let's go back to the Houston game in 2021.
Yeah.
He got the win. And he threw some good balls, and he was an efficient quarterback, So I don't think. Look, the Raiders game was not a great look. He was skittish, and and shaky, even to the point where he did put Dwelly in motion. It was zone, it was cover zero, and that was a little bit strange for me. I don't know what. Maybe he was just, I don't know, he saw something that it might have been in the blitz. He saw something that could have been in the blitz. I don't know. But this is one question I have, and I'm very interested in the answer to this, Ted. So down here in Oz, the NRL is the preeminent sporting code where I live, football code, and they have a reserve grade, which is like a lower grade, right? Where young up and coming players go and play. So they play against men, they play against really experienced players, and they get the experience they need to go and play in the top grade. Why would it be such a drama that he went and got some reps in a? Is there a reserve grade as such as I'm talking about? I mean, is the USFL still open? Is there anything from a lower, like in baseball, you've got the minor leagues. Is there anything below the NFL? Tell me.
Yeah, there's I forget which one it is right now. It's XFL or NFL, USFL is still happening. The Niners worked out a linebacker who just came from the USFL, and there was a wide receiver, a little short wide receiver, quick wide receiver that we worked out this offseason. I think it was USFL as well. So yeah, there is that. It's just the thing is it plays a different time of year, so it's not during the NFL season. But I guess that's possible. I just think that there's plenty of teams that will want Lance if he's at a discounted price, or if you were to cut him. Like Michael Lombardi said that he didn't know if Lance would make the 53-man roster, which I think is just asinine and ridiculous. But if for some reason we were to cut Trey Lance, I'm sure there are tons of teams that would sign him to be a backup, maybe behind an older QB that they could then develop him behind, which is like what we were supposed to be doing in the first place.
Yeah. And if we go way back, and this is, so I don't know what you were like. Who did you want us to if we just go way back to the draft, right? Who did you want? So I was a big Fields guy, right?
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. So I wrote an open letter on I think it was Niners Nation that got a bit of traction about. I was like, dear, Kyle Shanahan, please draft Justin Fields. Put all the reasons why. Blah 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 blah. And I'm not saying that, but I still think it was probably the right pick for that team at that moment, only because, and I think behind the scenes, do you think that Kyle, in his egotistical way, said, no, I want Trey, I can turn him into anything that I want, and the rest of the organization might have wanted Fields or Mac Jones, and so I guess there's a few thoughts that I'm putting in this little paragraph, but we would have had a better athlete if we had Fields for him to learn how to throw the football. But the unfortunate thing for Trey, mate, is that he was just so raw, and everyone was saying that he was going to the best place in the NFL, but in reality, he went to the absolute worst place.
It's starting to look that way, and people are like, "Oh, why do you call it a sabotage?" I'm like, because if not, you're saying that Kyle's inept, and I just don't buy that. And and people are like, "Well, it doesn't make any sense." I'm like, "You're right, it doesn't make any sense." Like, I agree with that part, but I do think that he really just wants Purdy to be the number one. He doesn't want any QB controversy. Otherwise, I think you got to let Trey Lance get some work with the ones and see what he can really do. You cannot compare Trey Lance to Brock Purdy until you let Trey Lance run with the number one O-line and the number one weapons.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but it's not apples to apples until that happens. I don't care what you say. I don't care how he looked on Sunday. He'll probably look a lot better the rest of the preseason. He looked a lot better than that most of the rest of his career. So I'm not buying it. And so like Shay's here, Shay Lewis. I'm not sure if that's Treyway or his brother. Let us know which one you are on Twitter. And I appreciate you saying that. He's saying stop the conspiracy theories. I'm going to speak what I feel, Shay. That's what I do. People said, be who you are. Don't try to be someone else. So I'm not trying to be someone else. I'm speaking my opinions. My opinion of Kyle has gradually been eroding. As I've looked at this QB situation where he passed on Mahomes for Cousins, he didn't get Cousins. He paid Jimmy the most money ever for a QB. Look how that worked out. Then we had a chance to get out of Jimmy, trade him away, get something, and get Tom Brady, who wanted to come retire here. He grew up in San Mateo, California, on the peninsula, rooting for the 49ers, and he wanted to come retire here. And instead, we're like, no, he goes to the Bucs, he wins the Super Bowl. I'm convinced we would have won at least two. I'd say at least one, but I mean, in 2021 or 2022, I think we probably would have won at least one with Brady. Then, he doesn't get Stafford. Stafford goes and wins one with the Rams with their super team. We're that super team right now. We are a super team without a QB. That's all we are. And then, even last year he had Purdy as QB number 3. I mean, who here thinks Purdy was our third best QB in 2022? And people say, oh, he got better during the season. He ran the scout team. And I get it. Purdy even said he got better during the season. But we have no baseline because, once again, just like I'm talking about with Trey Lance this year, Kyle didn't let Purdy play with the ones last year. So we just don't know. It's all conjecture and guessing. And that's bull. That's bull. You need to know. And we need to know who our best QB is by week 1. And we don't want to have to wait for our best QB for the other QB to get injured or to flame out. And then we're behind the 8 ball because we've lost games that we could have won if we had just started the right one first. So I'm sorry, until there's a fair competition, I'm going to complain. And what happened Sunday was not fair. We've never had a QB come in and have 20 passes to 8, like the first 3 possessions, every single one a pass. And it's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. And I'm not going to buy it. So you can complain all you want, but I'm not hearing it until I see a change from Kyle.
I love it, man. I love the passion, because what the thing is people like, fan is short for fanatic, and that's who we are. So, we are going, because we are so flabbergasted by the treatment of this guy and by the decisions that Kyle has made. Who can blame, us for scratching our heads and sometimes not sort of clutching at straws, but thinking of every possible solution as to why Kyle would call a game like that, because he has never. You don't call a play fake without calling the run. It's just amazing to me. But we know why he didn't get Tom Brady, right? Because his ego wouldn't handle it, Ted.
Well, I heard an interesting one the other day when I was on with Ryan. Somebody said maybe those guys don't want to play with Kyle. Maybe Kyle, maybe that's it. And so either way, it's, it's different, but it's the same. It's same guy. It's Kyle. You're not going to get a franchise QB with Kyle because either he doesn't want to share the spotlight with them, or they don't want to be told what to do by him and squished into his system and not be allowed to do what they do best, and have Kyle actually adjust his system to the strengths or weaknesses of those QBs. So it's super frustrating. Real quick, Bashar had a really good point. He said you can't maintain the rights to those players if they go to such leagues. In other words, like if we let Lance go to the USFL, then we don't get him back. He goes to whoever the highest bidder is. And trust me, I don't think he's going to be itching to come back to Kyle if he turns it around somewhere else. He's going to be like, there's the last place he'd want to come, in my opinion.
Yeah. I'm not super au fait with how the minor leagues work in the NFL. So, it was just something that I was thinking about last night in regard to thinking about this show this morning. What could Trey do to get the reps? Because, one thing that Trey needs is reps. What does he get this morning? 3 today at training camp, right? So, but one thing I wanted, there's a couple of things I want to bring your attention to, Ted. And did you listen to the Steve Young interview on KNBR?
I did not. No. So you'll have to fill me
Okay.
in on what he said.
Yeah. He was level-headed. He gave some really good and I think we should probably put it in the well, let's post the link to that interview in the YouTube description. But he said, that he is under such scrutiny that he is thinking that, every pass that he makes is going to be judged by the national media. And that with the fact that he's getting all that attention, and he related it back to himself, like he had to go on to the he had to go onto the field to replace guess who, Joe Montana. So he really, associates that pressure with a young guy going onto the field and being scrutinized that heavily, that he's going to have some trepidation. And I thought he really sort of laid out some of the reasons that Trey didn't look his best in that first game. I think really, really well. And as I said, let's post the interview into the show description. But Steve Young knows what it's like to be coming in off, or knows what it is to face pressure from the national media. And this is a kid that is in a similar situation in that regard. Not obviously coming in for Joe Montana, but is being scrutinized very, very heavily.
Yeah, no, Steve, it was brutal back when Steve and Joe were going on, and the fan base was very much split the same way it is now. And I was Team Steve. I wear his jersey. I was ready to make the switch, but I mean, it's hard to say that we might not have won more than one Super Bowl if Joe had stayed. I mean, the way it turned out. Got to keep in mind though, the team had changed by then. Salary cap was in place, and the drafting at the end of every round was starting to catch up, even with good free agent moves and things like that. So hard to say, but yeah, Steve. The thing with Steve Young is like, I love him, and he's like way more personable than Joe Montana. But the dude is like a flip flopper. It's like every week he's saying something different, and so it annoys me with him. He's not real stable with his messaging. And so that's a peeve that I have with Steve Young for sure. But I think it's I don't know. I'm seeing somebody was saying, James here was saying also Kyle sabotaged by running him through between the tackles last year. So there's kind of a track record for Kyle sabotaging Lance, if you will. Especially when they said, "Oh yeah, we're ready to lose as we need to." Or we were, in hindsight, they said we were ready to lose with Lance and let him develop. But that's not letting him develop if you're just smashing him up like a fullback between the tackles. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and say Kyle has a prior record here. If it's admissible in court, Your Honor, I would like to introduce new evidence that Kyle has prior convictions of sabotaging Trey Lance. So throw the book at him, people. Throw the book at him.
Yeah. And then you've got this other. So I like Jack Hammer's question in the press conference the other day. Did you hear that?
Oh, it's great.
Yeah, right. And Kyle had every opportunity to say some really good things about Trey, but he did not. He just and part of me thinks that Kyle will answer questions in the way that he it's almost like he wants to piss off the person who was asking the question, but he saying it comes with the territory, and that it's going to be what happens to young quarterbacks. Trey can handle it and all that sort of thing. It would have been nice to hear him say, look, I get it that Trey is under this much scrutiny, and that we could probably do some better things to help him. The way that we support him around here, we go into bat for him, within the organization. But no, all he could say is that he's just going to get that's just part of the territory. So again, shows that either Kyle just wanted to stuff it in Jack's face, or he just does not like Trey at all.
No, he doesn't like Trey, and he's not defending him. And I think part of it was Trey going to Jeff Christensen and Mahomes, and Kyle didn't set that up. Kyle's ego wasn't involved with that. So Kyle's mad about that. I think Kyle thinks that Purdy will be his 2022 self, yet it doesn't really look like that so far. And even his 2022 self threw a lot of drop picks. And that's what we're seeing a lot of now, a lot of picks and drop picks in camp. So real quick, third string all-pro. Real quick, Ruben Luna says Lance needs to play with an O-line. Absolutely. All QBs do. And somebody mentioned, why didn't Sam Darnold? Well, Sam Darnold the defense was much worse for the Raiders by the time Sam Darnold came in the second half than what, as a preseason game rolls on, the defense, everybody, the teams just get more and more watered down. But the Niners offensive line didn't. It was the same offensive line for Lance and Darnold. It's just the D wasn't as good. But we were also running the ball. That's the difference. Darnold had 9 runs for Darnold and 8 passes. Lance had 20 passes and 8 runs. It's not even close to the same thing. Especially when
was a run.
And it was the 3 drives in a row of no runs. That's the other thing. If you had 1 run per drive, probably would have been fine, actually. But 3 drives in a row of 3 drives in a row of no runs. That's not okay. Not on a run first team. Third string all pro says, watch the JTO review. Yeah, I watched it. I'm not saying Lance had a good game, but it's his first game back. He's rusty. I'm not indicting him his whole freaking career on one preseason game with bad O-line and bad play calling. I'm sorry, I'm not going to do it. So you can watch all the film you want. It's one game. And it's a preseason game with none of our good weapons and no good O-line. And the Raiders, game plan the hell out of that game. That was their freaking Super Bowl. You got to remember that. So that was one of the titles of my, shows this week was Raiders won their Super Bowl on Sunday. So good, congrats Raiders, good job. And Steve-O says Josh Allen's only 10 pounds heavier than Lance. That's a freaking joke. He's 30 pounds heavier. If he's, an ounce heavier, he's 30 pounds. Josh Allen is massively larger human being than Trey Lance. It's not even comparable. You're looking at some stat from when Josh Allen was graduating in the combine or something. If you see that 237 mark, he's well over 250, and Lance is maybe 225. So
go back to third string for me, Ted. What do you? I don't think you hate Purdy. What's he? Your Purdy hate is loud and clear. I think that's a wrong thing to say. Third string. Ted doesn't hate Purdy. He just wants a fair fight.
I don't hate Purdy at all. I really like Purdy. I like Purdy a lot. I just like Lance better. I like Lance's upside better. And I'm not saying I think Lance is better now, but I'm saying we need to know what it is. Where do they stack up? And guess what? If Lance is almost as good as Purdy, then I think you play Lance because he's got the higher upside and he's much more likely to improve. Whereas Purdy, I think we've seen most of what he can do. I think he'll make some incremental gains, but it could all be washed out by the DCs having tape on him now to attack his weaknesses and limit his strengths. So, I don't hate Purdy. Sorry. Calling him mid last year as a rookie, that's not hate. That is high praise for a freaking rookie. I'd say there's maybe 1 or 2 other rookies ever that I would say were mid in the NFL, like Roethlisberger and Herbert are the only 2 I can even think of. So it's not hate. It's honesty. So if honesty is hate to you, maybe you're biased. Third string. Sorry.
No, it's good. This is kind of the debates that we need to have because that 6 Lombardi is missing from our shelf. And if we don't get it in the next couple of years, I don't see us getting it in a long time. We have got the weapons. We have got the play caller. I don't think we have the head coach.
And people think I'm saying sabotage, like I don't like Kyle. I'm a Shanna fan. I do think he's a genius in most things, pretty much everything, except for quarterbacks. And I was saying third round running backs, but I think since then it's morphed, and I'm just saying pretty much every third round pick not named Fred has been kind of a disaster. Look at the way Latu and Moody are looking right now. And I know it's way too early to judge them. I have all the faith that they'll be fine. But someone just did say up there, they said something about Latu, like, oh, you can't catch, but we can have him in for blocking. But it's just like people talk about Trent Williams tipping. Well, that's tipping the play. If you bring Latu in, sure as shit, you're not throwing to the guy. Yeah. So I do think, though, he could help our right tackle and help keep Kittle from having to do that, which would then Kittle's in the pattern. That is great catching, right? So that's one way I could see Latu working. But and Randy's saying Purdy was our second best QB. Jimmy is the man. Fine. Then what happens if Lance doesn't get hurt? then you still never know what you had in Purdy last year because there was no reps with the first team. It's ridiculous. We've never had a QB1 competition. Supposedly we had one in 2021, but Lance had maybe like 15 reps out of 300 with the first team. He was all with the second team. So again, there was really no chance for Lance to beat Jimmy G in 2021, especially once he hurt his finger. But even before that, it was all pretty much predetermined. You just know they're not going to pay $27 million for a quarterback and then not have him play at all, because that's what could potentially have happened if Lance didn't get hurt in 2021. He could have played the whole season, and you're paying $27 million to Jimmy to sit on the bench. That's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. And the locker room probably would have flipped out about it too, knowing what's happened since then. The way they did flip out when we tried to even put him in for sub packages.
This is the thing, right? So this is what Rich Eisen said on his. I was just looking around at YouTube, and Rich Eisen said that it was going to be Jimmy from the 20 to the 20, and then they were going to put Trey in for the red zone to use his athletic ability, which they did to success. He threw the first touchdown pass of the 2021 season, remember? And then when they're up against the Packers, he ran it in for a nice touchdown with some nice blocking from our left tackle, the big guy. You just said his name. I can't even remember his name. But if the hey, no, what's Trent Williams.
Yeah.
The fact is, if the locker room didn't say, and look, this is rumors, hearsay, maybe, I don't know, but saying to Jimmy, saying to Kyle, you're disrespecting Jimmy, you're making him do all the work to get him down the field, and then you put Trey in to do the, put their icing on the cake. Why not? Why not do that, right? And then it just did. He went back and put Lance on the shelf when he knew he needed the reps. He needed to get the noise. He needed to be in that arena. He needed to be the man in the arena for a little while. And it, and I know we're probably bashing our head up against a brick wall. I saw someone talking about taking pills or something. I don't know what the hell that is.
Oh, because I was getting excited. They're like, blood pressure pills. Probably, people like to make old cracks because I'm an old fart. So right. I get it. It's fine. Have your fun. Just know you wouldn't say it to my face. That's all I can tell you.
So what do you think it was the locker room, Ted, that was like, mate, you're not doing this to Jimmy. We don't want you putting Trey in, or do you think it was more of a fact that they were Kyle decided that he wanted Jimmy to play?
Oh no, it was the locker room. It was Jimmy in the locker room backing Jimmy. Yeah. And it should be just like, hey, we're winning. That's all that matters. Shouldn't matter who gets the glory. It should be a team sport, and whatever is the best thing for the team. It also helps keep both QBs healthier if they're splitting reps. So, there's less chance of getting injured if you're not taking all the reps. So, I have no doubt. It's pretty well common knowledge that the locker room revolted, and Kyle kind of covered for it and said, "Oh, I can't get into rhythm doing it," but he had been doing it all preseason and didn't seem to have much problem with it. So, we'll see.
That was his excuse, right? Getting into play calling rhythm. Trey fans are like people that hunt for Sasquatch. They've heard all the tales and watched all the grainy videos, but in the end, it's all based on nothing.
That's not true. Trey Lance has shown flashes of brilliance in every game he's played. It's just also followed up by a lot of inconsistency. We just need to see more consistency. But he threw a pass to Conley on Sunday that is not in young Brock Purdy's bag, and will never be in Brock Purdy's. There's no way he's throwing that frozen rope 20 yards. Purdy is not doing. He could make the same pattern throw. It's just going to be much more of a rainbow. It's going to take a little longer to get there. A lot more chance for the defense to adjust and make a play on it. The one that Trey Lance threw was an absolute big boy throw. And he also had one where he improvised, and JT O'Sullivan, Steve was saying, no, Ted didn't watch it. So I'm disappointed. Well, guess what, Steve? I did watch it. I clipped out several, clips. It was the good stuff of Trey because I'm trying to show like it wasn't all bad. And there's stuff to look forward to. And JT O'Sullivan said this kind of improvisation is something the Niners haven't had in years, except for a little bit from Brock Purdy last year. And you can see it on my timeline. I've got it clipped out. It was when he, improvised. There was pressure. and Trey Lance rolled to his right. And as he got to the line of scrimmage, he jumped up in the air and jumped past it to Willie Snead for the first down right before he threw the interception, touchdown, whatever you want to call it, dropped interception that Dwelly saved the touchdown on. But yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy.
So what do you? What's not translating from the training paddock, Ted? Like you have said when you have been at training camp that Trey looks like the better quarterback. You're not the only.
He didn't on Sunday. That was not what he looked like in camp.
No, right. So, and you're not the only person that's saying that. If you try,
well, that's the thing. People say you're not reputable. I'm like, well, I'm far from the only one saying this stuff. So,
yeah, that's right. Exactly.
Feel free to defame me if you want, but I don't lie. So, if you think I just don't know what I'm seeing, I've only been watching football for coming up on 45 years, but or a little more than that now, actually, honestly, shit. So yeah, if you don't think I know, that's fine. But
so do you think it's the mind thing? Do you think it is a situation where he gets in there and the head noise is too much?
I just think he's rusty. I think he's looked better than that, and I think he'll be fine. I think he also probably didn't have a lot of faith in these weapons. Some of them got open, and then he threw to them, and they like stutter stepped and did stuff that screwed things up too. So, and JT O'Sullivan, I respect his opinions. I like watching his stuff, but I know he's got an axe to grind with Kyle, and I'm not saying he's biased against Lance, but I watched Kyle Posey's breakdown, and it was definitely a little more favorable. And who was it? Was it Kurt Warner that had? He was just on. Let me look it up real quick.
Yeah, look it up.
Ryan Hensley posted it. It was Kurt Warner was on something or other, and wrong thing. Let me see this here real quick. Bottom line is Kurt Warner was also, basically saying, don't freak out. This is not as bad as some people are saying. There are things to like, and there's just a lot of people that are invested in the anti-Lance agenda, and I'm invested in a pro-Lance agenda. I'll say that, but ultimately, there were things to like, and I think that he'll look better. I'm not judging Trey Lance on the first preseason game. I'm judging him on everything, and so far this week in camp, he's had a very high completion percentage with no interceptions and no dropped interceptions. So
he has the highest completion percentage.
I guess he was on Rich Eisen. Kurt Warner was on Rich Eisen,
right?
And it was fairly positive. So, and Rich Eisen's been bashing Trey Lance lately too. So it's kind of interesting to see these national guys. They go back and forth. They don't care. They don't care about being right. They don't care about being consistent. All they care about is clicks and views, and they're just going to say whatever is popular or is going to inflame people that are going to click and show up. So, I've been very consistent in what I talk about. I was pro Jimmy, but I never thought Jimmy was great. I just defended him against people saying he was terrible or awful. I never said he was better than top 12, and that was 2019. So anybody who says, you love Jimmy, like I don't love any football player. Got news for you, right? I mean, I really like some of them for sure. I really like Kittle. I like the idea of Lance, but honestly, I'm not going to sit here and tell you he's better than Purdy right now. I don't know, but I'd like to find out before the season starts. I'd like to find out. And it just doesn't seem like we're going to get that. And I think that's a mistake. Even if you pick Purdy right, to not know with higher degree of certainty, to me, it's a mistake. So
yeah, well, it's just not. It's not. It's not running a organization in the right. It's not. There's a word that I'm looking for, which it'll come to
malpractice.
Yeah, malpractice.
Organizational malpractice, and doctors get sued for it, and so do lawyers. They lose their medical license, and they lose their bar degree. Yeah, their medical. Their ability to practice law for malpractice. And I'm not saying Kyle should be fired. I tweeted that out today. I said, look, I'm not saying fire Kyle, at least not yet. I'm just saying I want Kyle to improve. And I'm not saying he hasn't improved, but with the QB thing, it's just like I said, you could kind of explain away Mahomes and Brady and Aaron Rodgers and Stafford and, Purdy one at a time and in a vacuum, you kind of, that kind of makes sense. That excuse makes sense there and that does there. But then, like, you look at it as a whole and it's damning. It's just like, I'm sorry, here we are, year 7, and we are either unsettled at quarterback, which is how I feel. I'm not settled on Brock Purdy. I don't care if Kyle is. He's made too many mistakes to just say, Kyle said it must be right. So we're not settled, or we're settled on a QB who was mid last year, who got injured and has looked a lot worse. And Cam, I'm not saying he's bad or terrible. I don't hate Purdy. I hate the hyperbole that surrounds Brock Purdy because he won some games with a freaking super team. So, there are at least 10 to 15 QBs in this league that could do that or better.
Yeah.
It might not have got hurt against the Eagles. They're maybe a little bit bigger and stronger. I mean,
Derek Carr is one of them, right? Derek Carr could have done it. Ryan Tannehill could have done it. Ryan Tannehill would have won the Super Bowl.
Cousins is another one. There's these all mid players that they're all some. I'm not gonna say Mac Jones because I don't believe in him just because of his attitude, but there's a lot.
No.
Dak Prescott, same, similar type thing. He's a little more athletic than those other guys, but I think he's a little better. But they're all in that like 10 to 15 range,
So just going, you mentioned Aaron Rodgers there, and so we think let's go. There's an article that's been put out on The Athletic. Let's put that in the show notes as well. Is that he is comparing the journey of Trey Lance with Alex Smith. One thing, and before I get your opinion on that comparison, this is a direct quote from Kyle Shanahan when he drafted Trey Lance. I think he is very impressive in terms of his intellect, how he deals with people, how he just handles the social situation. Shanahan said on draft day, and I looked at him as a CEO of a company. How times have changed. So Tell me, what do you think? So based on what he said, what Matt Barrows is saying, look, they both had leg injuries. They were both drafted for their ability to get out of the pocket. Both of them, that has not materialized. It did not materialize for Alex. It has not materialized really for Trey as yet. And he did post I just want to say, which game did he post? Yeah, the 2011 NFC divisional round, which Alex Smith obviously was on fire for.
Yeah.
So.
Against the New Orleans Saints.
Yeah, what do you see in those comparisons?
Well, I mean, I see a little Lance, but the leg injury for Alex Smith came way later after, the thing I see about Alex Smith is that he was a quarterback who was replaced by Cap and then replaced by Mahomes, and then the Commanders tried to replace him with Haskins too. Dwayne Haskins, RIP.
Yeah.
So that's one thing I see about Alex Smith is however good you think he was, every team he was on either replaced him or tried to replace him. So with Alex Smith, I'm going to go ahead and say I see more of a parallel with Brock Purdy, because when Alex Smith got, here early on, he injured his shoulder. And a lot of people feel like he was never the same after injuring his throwing shoulder. So, maybe I would never wish that on Purdy. I hope Purdy is great. I hope he's better than he was last year. I hope he takes to the Super Bowl and wins. Unfortunately, that's what it's going to take for me to be like, oh, this is a good idea with Purdy, is a Super Bowl win. Take 6 or bust that's how I feel. And so, but any major injury to your throwing arm, and this is a major injury that Brock sustained, to have this UCL repair plus internal brace surgery that only one other NFL QB has ever had, and Nick Mullins, we don't even know if he's back. He was a year before he played a regular season game, and he played poorly as a Browns quarterback against the Raiders. He lost with 147 yards passing, 1 TD, no interceptions. And then he hasn't played a regular season game since, except for some mop-up duty for Cousins. So it's been 2.5 years. We don't even know if he's 100% now. So, any major injury to any athlete, they may never be the same again. If it's a major leg injury or throwing arm injury, shoulder, elbow, even a thumb or important finger, like a middle finger, for a quarterback or a pitcher, those can be they can, and then even if it heals physically, you can have mental scarring where he's totally 100% physically, but he's just afraid of getting hit and short arming it and trying to get rid of the ball before guys come open because he knows if he waits, he's going to get smeared. And you can't do that in the NFL. The margins are too narrow. So, I mean, young Dick Dong says the $6 billion organization is not sabotaging their investment. Get a grip. I mean, it doesn't make sense. I agree, but that's what's happening. So, I mean, you could say they won't, but the $6 billion organization is Jed York, right? Yeah. And Jed York has basically said, here you go, Kyle and John, you guys run it, because of what happened with him and Harbaugh and Balky and all the egg on his face from that. He knows now you hire the experts and you let them run it. And I just don't think Kyle is above it, especially like we said, he's got the track record and what I saw Sunday and what we've seen with no reps with the first team. It's ridiculous. And maybe he'll change that. Maybe Lance will get some reps here before week 1, but at some point it's like too late to have a real competition. And I think we're getting close to that, where we only got about a week left now. We got a day tomorrow, and I don't think they practice tomorrow because the game's Saturday. You got a week till the Charger game, or maybe less than a week. I don't even know what day it's on, but 6 days, 7 days till the Chargers game, and then you got 3 weeks till the season starts. So, and there's not a lot of practices during that time like there is now.
Yeah. The fact that, and I don't know, and you raised it a little bit earlier on, but the biggest predictor for me of future behavior, Ted, is past behavior. And
absolutely,
and 7 years in, the QB, and his move this year was done out of such desperation. I think the trade up to 3 was out of such desperation as well. But the move that he's made this year in regard to, getting Sam Darnold in, getting Brian Allen in, and, why put unnecessary pressure? I mean, did he do it to get the best out of Trey bringing Sam Darnold in? Exactly.
Huge.
Would the absence of Sam Darnold not being there, would that give Trey, the ability to shine more? So I just think every decision that Kyle has made in regard not only to quarterbacks but to Trey Lance has been made. It's been to the detriment. Of his young quarterback.
Here we go. Bashar saying Alex Smith's deep ball was amazing before her shoulder and pull up in 2017 highlights. So yeah, and the other thing, another parallel I see with Alex Smith, and it's one I don't want to mention because I think we're wasting reps on Darnold. I think we're going to get to the end of this. We're going to wish we'd given Lance more first team reps, and we're going to wish we'd given Darnold less second team reps. But nonetheless, I will say there are some parallels with Darnold and Alex Smith in that they both had 5 OCs in their first 5 seasons. And I do think that Darnold, could be better here than he was with, the Jets or the Panthers. I just don't think it'll be good. I don't think it'll be good. And I don't think he should ever see the field unless Lance and Purdy are both injured. That's my stance. That's what I've said all along. And I've seen nothing that has changed my mind so far, other than a bunch of dink and dunk and trying not to throw interceptions. So
Kyle let's read this one. When it comes to football, Kyle is the equivalent of a scientist. He knows some stuff and can throw a football into an oven from another rooftop across the street. Yeah. I mean
he's brilliant. He's smart. He's just like some people said. He's got the IQ. He lacks some EQ.
Yeah.
And just this whole thing with the quarterbacks, it just seems like he doesn't want a franchise quarterback. He wants a mid-robot who will do whatever he says. And we see that.
And that's not the winning formula. And I just don't think, and I'm willing to say it now and be willing to be made wrong, but I just don't think we're going to win one with him. I don't think we will. I just don't think he has got it in him. I don't think he has the temperament to win a Super Bowl. I don't think he will. unless he gets a quarterback that is going to challenge him in his in the way that he runs his offense. Because at the moment, no one challenges Trey. No one challenges Kyle, right? You never ever challenge him. You do what you're told.
There's nobody in the organization to say no to him. Yeah,
No
I mean,
one.
I think there's some genius to zigging when other people zag. I mean, if you look at our team, most teams are building around a franchise QB, and they're letting defense slide a little bit, and they're building O-line, and so those things are expensive. And so Kyle's going cheap on O-line, he's going cheap on quarterback, and he's pumping a lot of money into our defense, and he's doing a lot of run game. And I think it works really well during the regular season, as we've seen. 13-3, 13-4, 10-7. Other than the year we got injured in 2020, so we'll throw that out. Heavily injured. The most injured team since 2012. We were in 2020, so that's ridiculously high injury rate. Even though we're normally pretty damn high, but somehow we usually pull it together for the playoffs. But I think it's fine for winning regular season games and making some noise in the playoffs. But yeah, as far as winning NFC Championship games, we're 1-2 there. And as far as Super Bowls, we're 0-1. And so I think at some point you got to be like, yeah, maybe you need to get that franchise QB. And then they don't grow on trees. They're not easy to get. I get it.
No.
But Blake thinks that, he thinks that Trey could be great, but it's going to take time. I don't think the Niners will give him. Unfortunately, he will be a solid QB, H-Town type, but they will never get what it's worth for him. I mean, we don't know how long it'll take to develop Trey Lance, but I guarantee you it'll take you longer. The longer and longer, the less and less you play him. That's the one thing I can guarantee. I was on record as saying I thought he might be ready by week 1 if we gave him the reps. And, it didn't look like that Sunday. I will admit that. But again, that's the first preseason game and not the last. So let's see how things unfold. And definitely, it seems like practice this week has looked again like it looked. And maybe he's just a good practice player and not a good game player. That there are people like that. There are people who are bad in practice and good in games. Hopefully that's what Purdy is, because he has not looked good in practice.
Well, he looked. Sorry, I won't say he looked because I haven't been to any practice. But giving him 3 reps. Hearing? Yeah, what I'm hearing, and well, what you were there, so I'm going to take what you're saying as honest and truthful. But getting 3 reps today, it's just not. It's just a waste of time, and I'm just trying to rack my brain in ways that he is going to be given the time that he needs, and will he? So just say we keep him for the next 3 or 4 or 5 years, right? And he's 27 or 28 by the time he turns into I just don't think that's going to happen, right? I mean, is that something that's ever going to be in the realms of possibility?
I mean, to me, I will say it sounds like Purdy's been doing a little bit better this week in practice. He's at least getting higher completion percentages. He hit a deep ball. He's still throwing too many picks and drop picks and pick sixes, but and taking too many sacks. But it does sound like he is doing a little better. So that's encouraging. I mean, that's what I want. People think because I said he was bad in camp, like I want him to be bad week 1. I don't. I'm just telling you what I saw. So that's sort of my 2 cents on the thing. And now, I don't have the same visibility on it anymore. We have to go off like Grant and Jack Hammer and Larry Krueger.
Yeah.
Who are there. Yeah. And Sterling Bennett is a great reporter.
What about Lombardi? What about David Lombardi?
Lombardi, he and Grant are a little bit sort of like Fox News and CNN. You kind of got to watch them both and draw an imaginary line down the middle.
Yeah.
But I think they're both great at what they do, and honestly, a lot of it is just perspective. Like I said, I guess a little different with practice because they do kind of stand together more than at camp where lots of different people are in lots of different angles. So you're not all seeing the same thing. But I think they're all really good. I think it's surprising how similar all their stats actually end up.
Yeah.
So I don't think, even though I do think there is a little bias, I don't think it shows up a lot in the statistics. It's just sort of in the interpretation of the statistics sometimes. And that's why it's tough because it's a lot of work. There's not just one you can read, in my opinion, but you kind of got to try and read them all, listen to them all as much as you can get the complete picture and just sort of take an amalgamation of it all and sort of say, okay, I think this is what it is based on that. And yeah. So they all do a really good job. I mean, I would love to be, like one of them someday. So
don't give it up, mate. Don't give it up. So, what? So you just think that's Kyle's copybook, right? That's his style, right? He's all D. He's not spending money on the offensive line. Was there? I didn't do too much on this year's draft, Ted. Was there anyone? Was there an offensive lineman that we could have taken?
Well, there's here Bashar's talking about DeJuan Jones was available, and apparently he's doing really well for the Browns. But it's preseason. I mean, all right, Bashar, I love you, and I know you love DeJuan, but I mean Trent Williams 2.0. I don't think so, man. I mean, the guy he's huge, and I think he'll be a really great pass blocker. But as far as the zone run scheme that we run, he's, to my knowledge, not that athletic. And I think even if he is, I don't think he'll hold up long. I think he weighs like 380 pounds, which is awfully large. But you never know. I mean, maybe he is the next big thing. But yeah, he said, I think he also said Dollar Tree offensive lineman Matt Pryor. Yeah, we worked out some OTs this week, and I was just like, oh wow, who could have seen this coming? We promote our swing tackle or our backup left tackle, whatever you want to call McKivitz, to be our right tackle. And then you're like, oh, yeah, Jaylon Moore, Matt Pryor off the street. Oh, yeah, we believe in Matt Pryor. I remember them saying the offseason. I'm like, what are you talking about? Oh, good old linemen don't end up on the street cheap. I'm sorry. That just does not happen. So anybody who was counting on Matt Pryor, you're making a mistake. And I'm saying this to all the people that are doubting me for doubting Kyle. It's like Kyle makes mistakes, folks, and this is just another one. So admit it. I'm not saying I know better, but I mean, in this case, I did. I knew we needed help at right tackle. A lot of us did, and so and in depth behind the right tackle. Even if McKivitz works out, we got nobody if McKivitz or Trent Williams goes down. So yeah, I don't know. That's wild.
If we get these. I just want to just deviate a little bit. We'll deviate a lot from the quarterback conversation, just real quick. Bosa. Yeah, what's happened with Bosa?
Nothing. I mean, Mayoko said he's hearing in the next 7 to 10 days, which would be right before the third or right after the third preseason game. And I think that's fine. I think, he keeps himself in good shape. I think there's a thought that he needs to the 90-man roster could be more dangerous than the 53-man roster because there's a lot of people desperate to make the team. They might not be as respectful and things like that. So, okay, buddy, hold on one sec. I got my buddy here. Hold.
The beauty of kids.
Yeah, and I was meaning to say it is that time too. We had talked about 6 o'clock as a
stop man. Time. It's time. I get it.
That's my son Ford. Daddy, get off the show.
Yeah, come on, man, Dad.
But yeah, I mean, I'm not super worried about Bosa. I think it'll happen, and I think he'll get enough time in pads. He's so good at keeping himself in shape. If it drags into the season, obviously that's a concern. But up till the third preseason game, I'm not too worried. After that, I start to get a little worried. I'd like to see 2-3 weeks of in pads practices to get the calluses back and work with Trent Williams and McKivitz. I'd like it for McKivitz too because he's going to go against TJ Watt week 1.
Yeah,
that's the other side of. If we're not worried about Bosa, maybe we should be worried about not having his. Oh, thanks, buddy.
Oh, that's gorgeous.
All right, guys. I think that's my cue.
Yeah, that's the cue.
Thanks, Ted. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah,
I'll just say peace and go Niners.
Yeah, go Niners, man. Give my love to your little man. See you, bud.
Appreciate it.
Bye.
Is that you?